I'm going to start this video by trying to do a payslip. Okay, so before we ever do our payslips, I'm just going to remind you of the 2 rules that we did in class. And if we do these 2 rules, the rest of the payslip will generally be perfect. Okay, so rule number 1 is that all taxes get calculated on gross pay. And the second one is tax credits get taken away from PAYE. If we can do those 2 things, the rest of the items are pretty straightforward. Okay, so this was a previous exam paper question. So we're going to start off and we're going to go through it in detail. So we're going to start off and we're going to do our workings down below in the box to keep everything nice and straight. So what am I told? His basic working week is 39 hours. My PAYE rate is 20%, my PRSI rate 4%, and my USC rate 2%. So PAYE being pay as you earn, PRSI is pay related social insurance, and USC is universal social charge. The hours worked, I have 45 hours. The hourly rate of pay is €10. My overtime rate is time and a half, and my weekly tax credit is €34. So I'm asked to do his weekly wage. So there's a few things here now, girls, before I get going that I need to be thinking about. So first of all, I know my basic working week, that's my standard hours, are 39 hours, and overall I've worked 45 hours. So that will allow me to see that there's definitely going to be some overtime hours here. So let's start and do our basic. So my basic working week, I did 39 hours multiplied by my hourly rate of pay, which is €10. Okay, so I'm just going to highlight here my €10 matches my €10 down there, and my basic working week of 39 hours is my 39 hours down here. Okay, so that gives me €390. Okay, so I'm going to pop that into the box here, €390. So the next thing I have to figure out is my overtime. So the box here isn't massive, girls, so I'm actually going to write it underneath the box. So how do I get my overtime? So generally up here, if I look at this, I have 45 hours that I worked. So 39 hours was my basic. So 45 minus 39 is equal to 6 hours overtime. So now that I have my overtime hours, I need to figure out what my overtime rate of pay is. So if you remember, we always say that my overtime rate of pay is time and a half. I multiply my normal hourly rate, my €10 here, by 1.5. Because time and a half basically, girls, means that I'm getting my full €10 plus another half on top of that. So that's why I multiply that by 1.5, and I end up with my new rate of pay being €15 per hour. Okay, so if I come back up, I have 6 hours coming from here, multiplied by my new rate of pay of €15. So my overtime pay is €90. So I'm going to put that up here into the overtime box. So if you remember, gross pay is all my different items of payment. So I could have my basic pay, my overtime, if I had any commission, or bonus. It would all go into gross pay. Here, I just have two items. So I'm going to add these two items together, and that gives me €480. Okay, so now I need to calculate my PAYE, pay as you earn. I was told in my question that my rate is 20%. So that's my rate up here. And I also have my little thing up here. All taxes get calculated on gross pay. So I now know I need to get 20% of my gross pay. So that's €480 multiplied by 20%. So 480 multiplied by my 20% gives me €96. So that's what I need to pay the government in PAYE when I get 20% of my pay. Now, what was I told? I was told I have a weekly tax credit of €34. So a tax credit is when the government comes along and they say, we're going to give you a little bit of relief on your tax. We're not going to actually get you to pay it all. So we take it away from PAYE. So I'm going to minus my €34, and I am left now with PAYE charge of 62. And I'm going to pop my €62 here into the box. So PRSI girls, again, I'm going to just highlight my 4%, and I'm going to come down in here to the box, and I'm going to do my gross pay, my 480 multiplied by my PRSI rate of 4%. And when I do that, girls, I have €19.20. Now I wouldn't round this, girls. I would always have the 20 cent in. So the last thing I need to do is to do USC. So that is 480 multiplied by 2%. So my 480 multiplied by my 2%, and I have €9.60. So my €9.60 is what I'm paid in my universal social charge. So now I've worked out my 3 different types of taxes, girls. And if you remember, we call them statutory taxes, and they're because I have to pay them by the law. Now we could have other items in here on the deduction side. We could have like health insurance and cycle to pay and all those things. But for now, this particular question, we just have the taxes. So I'm going to add up all of my deductions, and when I add them all together, I get €90.80. So gross pay minus deductions gives me net pay. So when I do my 480 minus my €90.80, I end up with a figure of €389.20. Now, girls, we did much more complicated ones than this in class, but this hopefully this is an exam standard one from the last year or two. So hopefully this will kind of give you a bit of confidence to do this in class. Okay, I hope this helps. Bye.